Yeah, so there was a bit of funny business because old Janie took the time to talk to Ali here from the CBC in that interview that she approached the CBC with. There's a reason. It wasn't like it was one-sided in that sense. She had to clear the air because she wasn't there to lie to you, everybody. And she took the time to talk about the dog situation because it got brought up in Belinda's interview in the media, in the papers in that sense. And she had some defending of herself to do back at that point in time. So Tucker was the replacement, in other words, right, Esther? And she was doing a lot of insinuating without coming out and directly saying anything. So there's this, there's a lot of evasion at work here. Holy shit, Sweet Tea. You love you and Charity very much. Thank you, Sweet Tea. I appreciate that. Mwah! May good things come to you and yours. Those RCMP must not have been able to wrap their heads around her refusing to let them look and two little ones missing. And she says, no, can't come in here. Who does that? Exactly. When we get to watch that body cam footage, when it comes out after the fact, it's going to be a different world in our minds in that sense. There's so many red flags since the get-go about just by way of Daniel and Janie and Malaya being not only psychologically distancing, but physically distancing from the scene and it not really lining up with what it is that they called for. As the responding officer, my first question in that sense, there would have been problems, but you still have to go through the priority is Jack and Lily. So they got to that point for a reason, and it had everything to do with what Malaya and Danny and Janie were trying to reenact, we'll say. Is that a good word for it? They were trying to paint that illusion at the time. You needed, at what point did you need more people to come search? It never sits right. You want people to believe, even in the moment, you can think back and look, you don't even have to be there to know something's not right. They don't want to talk to anybody. They want to paint this huge illusion. And when you ask questions, you get attacked. You get yelled at in that sense. People had to bail on them. It never made sense. You're supposed to answer those questions yourself in your mind from their perspective. You kept calling people to come over and help you search for the kids that you lost yesterday. They must be around here someplace type of thing. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, number one? That's in contrast with the story that you pushed to the RCMP about the kids being in the camper and then outside and then disappear. Dude, never happened. The fact that you insist that it happened that way, is going to hurt you in court. These are the things. You had to tell them something. You had to tell them something, and it wasn't exactly preferred. That's why it sounds so ludicrous, and there's no context. And you don't want to associate any sort of time because there's nothing worth remembering.
And I come home, and the dogs were already, on scene, and they were there for about an hour before I got there. I didn't know the exact day when the arrival was going to happen. It was even a surprise to me, but at the end of the day, everything's ruled out there, and I hope this is speculation, turns elsewhere.
So you arrive home after visiting with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
They're there, and then what happens?
They're there, and then, I walk up, greet them, and meet them for the very first time. It's like, can I come close to you and the dogs? And he said, oh yeah. And then
it's like the guy's taking a shit right in the middle of his interview. What the hell is going on here? You got your hands moving this way. You can't make eye contact. You're shuffling. You're not even confident in the things that you're saying. You're just trying to pan it off onto the cops doing something wrong. Here it comes. Here's an update from Danny. What a fucking idiot. Kent, this is your buddy. This is the guy that you idolize. You worship.
Investigators were there, or one investigator, and, had a conversation with him, and they said, like, yeah, we're going to do the property. I said, perfect, like, let's do every square inch. And that's when
perfect.
It began with, where do you think we should search? And in my mind, that's...
Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question on your behalf, asshole. I've been doing a lot of thinking in regards to this little bitch. And in this circumstance, wherever the disposal site is, in my opinion, of course, wherever the disposal site is a place where Daniel has frequented often in the past. And in the past, often, whether it's in visual eyesight of a place where he visits often, I'm sure the RCMP are along the same lines of thought in my mind. But the point to all of that is I'm probably sure that it's not going to be too far off of something you're going to be able to triangulate through digital forensics after forming a pattern of behavior from his tweaking ass, should you have a reason to recognize one in all of the, depending on how far back you want to search on his geolocates or a particular device or Malaya's. But him in particular, Danny has everything to do with disposing of these bodies, and it's written all over him. There's no fucking possible way that he would relinquish any sort of control. It would just be against his nature in this high drama, high stakes moment. You can't, unless you have access to a boat or a deep water port and the right situation, there's no way that he would dispose of them in the water, in my opinion. I think it's just around, it could be a number of places, because I don't know all of his patterns, but these are some things where I'm saying that you could pick up if you had access to all of his electronics in that sense, from an investigative standpoint. But as for profiling, if you will, loosely him, I believe he'd be the type of person who, in that moment, he's more apt in an emergency situation. If Daniel had to get rid of two bodies, would he prefer to know where those things are so he could keep an eye on them at all times? Know where they are, that way he knows that he's not about to get caught? Or would you give it up to randomness and risk having the children be discovered and God knows when, and you're just waiting for that to happen because of things like trying to dispose of it improperly by sinking it just offshore, off the beach, and being susceptible to the shoreline effect? You know what happens to things where you just throw in the water? They come back onto the beach. They come back, they get washed up, they get discovered in time, they get hooked up in nets. Nothing's ever perfect. And plus, getting out there, I think in his state of mind, I don't think that that's the first thing that he would have done because just of the level of paranoia he would have been under due to the substances he was consuming. I think he would have chosen to do it in land that he was familiar with, that was preferably owned, and he had a reason to be there in the first place. It's not difficult to hide your tracks in that environment if you're needing to dig a hole. There's all kinds of land that he has access to around there. Nero VX, if he gets found guilty in RSO, will he not be able to live with children? Well, it's not going to be a real problem. I don't think you have to worry about that, Nero. It's not an issue.
These guys are the best. They're supposed to be the best. They should have mapped the terrain, looked at satellite imagery, and found every single...
You know, it's going to be easy to disturb the soil potentially, but you can always cover that up. It's not going to necessarily stand out. Probably got him over at Durwood's. Couple big 50-gallon, or maybe a drum, a 45-gallon drum of something. Probably Old Spice aftershave cologne that Durwood wears. You can get It depends what happened, Trail Hiker. It depends what happened. I mean, premeditated means that you planned it out. I don't think necessarily that this was planned out. This is just a result of the toxicity of the environment that the kids were living in. If you can somehow tie those in together illegally, then maybe. But I think it's separate in that sense. It's not any worse in my mind. It's just as bad. It's worse in my mind. You're murdering your own children. No, we don't do psychics in here. No, we don't do that kind of shit in here. That's just another form of manipulation. There'll be no more talk like that.
Planning or anything like that. I mean, they were boots on the ground, just doing whatever they could.
You were mentioning that you had a bit of a tense reaction with one of the dog handlers. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was a little bit heartbreaking and saddening to hear what the words that came out of his mouth. And for me, all I was trying to do was ever help. Because that's all I've been doing is cooperating, and to see that and hear that, I mean, it was pretty saddening.
What did he say?
He said your Thursday and all the way leading into Friday morning, there's not enough detail. And I said to him that douchebag. Thursday was just an ordinary day until I woke up on Friday morning. And that's when, like, life changed. There was nothing like life changing on Thursday.
Think about how off that is. First of all, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, let's begin with Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were all non-typical days. You should be able to remember all of the events each and every day because it's out of the ordinary. All right? That's how things stick out to us when things are out of the ordinary, aren't typical. They're easier to remember, and he wants to play it off in the exact opposite. Listen, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the kids you called in sick to school. This was a day unlike any other to begin with for the last 48 hours before you called the RCMP, fun boy. Nobody's talking about your personal perspective on life. Nobody's asking you, Daniel, and you're just incorporating it into why there's nothing worth or nothing relevant. Don't you think when you have no answers that everything is important? Every moment. God, you don't have any idea what could have happened. Therefore, everything is important. And you're here telling everybody how unimportant it is. Danny, why did the kids get called in sick for work and then the next thing, or sick for school, the next thing you know, these same sick kids are outside playing and laughing and carrying on? You want us to believe this through your nonsensical alibi, Janie. But the kids weren't feeling good. They don't sound very sick to me. Why were they really called in sick from school? And then why did you proceed to tow them around Hell's Half Acre for the next 2 days? Really, it was all unnecessary. Why? Is that a demonstration of some of the overbearing nature of your dynamic, I guess? Your toxicity, the shitty part of your relationship? Why the hell is everybody going? If only one person really needs to go and get things, what else are you doing out there? What's the real point of being out and about like that? Especially when the kids are homesick. Everything is out of the ordinary because the kids being homesick would close up your normal routine. Or should you have a job, but you don't? Tammy, if MB called school and counted them out, she should have got them breakfast or gave them meds. She went back to bed like nothing wrong. Not a very good mom. Well, they do that quite often. So after PA day, it's more probably in this circumstance representative of the poor mental health of the parents rather than anything wrong with the kids. Maybe you had to let the black eye lesson down that he claims to have given her on Wednesday. Or that Tonka truck incident, Daniel's hand. Hey, do you want this, darling? Go ahead. You can have it. Put it in the garbage, please.
And all the way leading into Friday morning, there's not enough detail. And I said to him that Thursday was just an ordinary day until I woke up on Friday morning. And that's when...
That statement right there directly contradicts the kids even being called in sick for school in the first place. No, quite the opposite. It was out of the ordinary that the kids were sick from school. Their usual routine was disrupted. They were home rather than being where they should have been at school, especially at that time of the morning. This all happened right after. Interesting. Why did you call them in sick again?
Like life changed. There was nothing like life changing on Thursday. It was a normal day. So, therefore, there was nothing detailed that needed to be remembered that day until Friday morning. So,
look at old Danny boy re-rating the instruction manual. Therefore, there's nothing worth remembering. That's quite a jump, isn't there? Is it? Talk about giving yourself away. Therefore, there's nothing worth remembering? No, that's not how it goes there, fuckface. That's not how it goes at all, no matter how hard you wish it did. That's such a weak assertion, I think the term goes. Such a weak assertion, you fucking knob.
it was a normal day.
That is so telling. Like all of the reasons why he thinks he's not a suspect and he's innocent in all of this, none of it has to do with any normal police procedure like clearing the parents or clearing publicly the people who they know and have ruled out as being suspects. That's the first priority. You don't even bring that up, Danny. You have to interpret it through a piece of paper that you think somebody would have checked if they thought you were guilty. Oh, fuck, if life were that easy. What a douche. What a complete idiot. When you do things like this, you tell on yourself. You're guilty, asshole. You're guilty. Who is this fooling, Danny? You. As long as you believe it, you can keep this going. But even he's admitting these charges he took right in the crotch. He took them right in the midsection. Uh-oh.
So, therefore, there was nothing detailed that needed to be remembered that day until Friday morning.
So he was.
Yeah. Officer, there was nothing worth remembering for all of that time period. I don't need to answer that question because there was nothing worth remembering. That's like telling the professor on the test in the answer section that they're stupid and this question is ridiculous and not worth answering, and expecting like a perfect mark on it. Well, that's not the way tests work. That's not the way this goes. Heaven's sakes. Danny. Wow. Are you with me, everybody? Are you with me? That's just nothing worth remembering. Therefore, fucking guilty.
Thursday was just an ordinary day until I woke up on Friday morning. And that's when, like, life changed. There was nothing like life changing on Thursday. It was a normal day. So, therefore, there was nothing detailed that needed to be remembered that day.
Whoa. Holy shit. That's some serious Terrence Howard level bullshit right there. That is a retard alert there, Robin Edwards. Absolutely. Thank you very much for pointing that out.